I think preseason actually has been very good. We started a week earlier than we normally would. I think that the players did a really good job in the short off season that we had, following a program that we put together to hopefully for them to come back in the preseason with a good, solid foundation of fitness, which they did. It helped us get playing a lot quicker than we normally would in preseason. And the fact that we returned a lot of players from last year gave us the ability also to get quicker to us playing. So we played 5 games incrementally. We built them up 30, 45, 60, 75, and 90-minute games, and played with 2 teams the whole time that actually got the same amount of minutes, which was great. This way we have more players that are available for the start of the season, especially with these games early on. The fact that we haven't played a real competition yet puts us a little bit behind the 8 ball, just because we haven't played, where Toluca's played like 7 matches up to this point to start the new year. But with that being said, I think we got a pretty good base of fitness, and it's going to be interesting to play tomorrow night's game, just because it'll be our first real competitive match of 2019. I think whether we're playing away from home, we're playing at home first, it really wouldn't make any difference. I think for us, just making sure that we have the ability to stay in the game based on the fact that we haven't played a real competitive match yet is going to be a big focus for us for the 90 minutes. If in any way, shape, or form we can take advantage of being at home, then we'll do that. But I just don't know if that's going to be, at this point, not having played games yet, if it's really going to be truly feasible. I really think it's about us being able to stay competitive based on a team who's like I said, in the middle of their season.
For Matt, you guys ended off within this type of a 2-leg aggregate series. You start the season there. You guys have plenty of experience through the playoffs. I mean, you draw on some of the past experiences that you've had in the playoffs and CONCACAF play for yourself to kind of get you through this tournament?
Yeah. Most guys would draw on experiences that they've had throughout their career. We have a similar group to the group we had last year. So we all experienced what it was like to go through an MLS season, participate in an Open Cup tournament, and also the 2-legged series that was the MLS Cup playoffs last year. It's reversed, obviously, with the home and away. I don't know if that really changes our approach in any way. Obviously, we're at home, and so we want to try and get as much out of this game as possible, and hopefully that will give us the best chance to advance in the stage. But as far as setting a goal of we have to win this game or we have to score X amount of goals, no, we're not doing that. We're just trying to get as much out of this game as possible.
And where do you feel yourself is at, going through this preseason and jumping right into a very high level of competitive game? Do you feel like you guys are ready for that, up to that task?
Yeah, physically we feel good. Like Peter mentioned, we had to accelerate our preseason in terms of tactics and fitness. I think it's the fastest we've reached checkpoints throughout the season of playing a 45-minute game and playing a 90-minute game. But for the most part, we're extremely healthy. The great part about preseason from our perspective was that I didn't really feel like there was ever a lull, which a lot of times in preseason you'll feel that at some point. At least in my 10 years of having a preseason, there's always a couple days where guys get tired and the level drops, or you go out and lay an egg against a team in a scrimmage. But we never had that, which I think is a great sign and something that we can gain a lot of confidence from. So overall, yeah, the group's feeling very good right now.
Hey, Matt, you say get the most out of it. I mean, what are you talking about when you say that? And what is the significance of a game like this in the context of the whole game?
The most out of it, just, I mean, if someone were to ask me, like, oh, is this a must-win game because, you know, it's the home leg, and, I mean, that'd be stupid to say, oh, it's a must-win game because it's a two-legged series. But we understand how it works, and it's an aggregate score. And so, I mean, if you're in a situation late in the game and you have an opportunity to add another goal, yeah, we need to take advantage of that. Or if we're defending, you know, the last 10 minutes of the game, we have to make sure that we don't give anything up. We have to be aware of the situation that we're in, the competition that we're in, and how it works. So that's kind of what I meant. Hopefully that answers your question.
Peter, how good is this competition? In U.S. Open Cup rounds, a lot of times early on, you play backups. Can you afford to do that here, or is it full bore from the get-go?
No, I think we drew the most difficult opponent. Normally speaking, when the draw's done, the American teams and the Mexican teams are put into the same bucket when they do the draw. And oddly enough, we were the team that was pushed over into the other bucket. So we're playing against, I believe, the most difficult opponent. As I said, and you add on there the fact that they're in the middle of their season, makes it an even bigger challenge. And then you add on the second leg matches in altitude at 8,700 feet. So you add all those things up, they're big challenges. At the same time, I think that, you know, the way we look at it is we got to be ready to play. And the guys have worked hard. We're gonna do everything we can to, like I said, be competitive in both matches. Starts with this one tomorrow night. We realize the team that we're playing is good. They're a hungry team. They're a tough team individually, defensively. And at the same time, when they go forward, they're really, really hungry in the counter. And so we're going to have to respond and be very attentive from the opening whistle, because it's a team that is in form and can play. And the other thing, too, is that, let's be honest, Mexican teams have all won this tournament. American team has not. So as of right now, we're just trying to be competitive.
How good is the home field advantage that they possess? There's good ones in MLS, but is it another level down there?
For sure. I've had the I don't know if you would call it the pleasure or the agony of having to play as a player and go into altitude situations where you really don't have the ability to train a lot in altitude prior to, and it can be a very difficult task. Can also test your manhood at times, but at the same time, I think, you know, as I said in the beginning, that the fact that we created a good base of foundation, I'm just hoping that when we go there, we're just not shocked by you know, their altitude, because it is quite a bit higher than Mile High.
How much do you sort of lay out now at this point lineups for both teams?
You know, it's actually a good question. Because these two games are a week apart, we're not really thinking next game. What I will say is, we'll have to keep the Sunday match against LAFC as a part of our decision making as well, because we're going to have to take consideration that we have altitude, we have travel, and we're going straight to LA from Toluca. So there we'll have to have a little bit of one eye on the first game, and then second eye on the other as well. But some of it's going to have to do with the result tonight as well, or tomorrow night.
For you guys as players, or I guess just personally, the way last year ended, obviously you guys finished first in the West, but I know you didn't get as far as you wanted. Does that play a factor at all into this season, or you just wipe the slate clean?
I think each year is different. Even if you have the majority of the same guys back, the dynamic of your team changes each year. I mean, even if you just add one or two guys, they're going to bring something different. And I don't want to say that you have to start completely over again, because you don't. You know, you do have a foundation that you've built over years. But I guess I'll answer it like, we haven't talked about what happened last year at all this year so far. There hasn't been a point where we've said, oh, you know, we fell up one game short last year of MLS Cup. Like, let's make sure that we start strong. And there hasn't been any of that. It's a new year. There's all 4 competitions in front of us, and that's how we want to approach it.
Matt, when you learned about the draw in December, what was your initial reaction?
Probably what Peter said, as why were we the one team that was in the other bucket? So surprised of who we were facing, but at the same time, as a player, there's an excitement to it because Toluca has a rich history. They're a big team, impressive stadium, really good fan base, just like us, and so I think it's a big challenge. And as players, you want to put yourselves in those difficult situations and challenge yourself. And also too, I mean, it's an opportunity for us to play against a Mexican team, someone that we don't really face or see, and so it's just different, which makes it exciting.
Peter, I know that when you prepare for teams in general, you usually tell us we're focused on how we play the game more than we are on our opponent, but you still prep for a team, obviously. So when you're prepping for a team in MLS that you see all the time and you know the guys, how does that prep, when you're getting your team ready, differ from prepping for a team like this that's in a completely different league that you don't see?
Well, the only thing I would say is we're maybe a little bit fortunate in that we knew back in December that was our opponent, so we could watch some games from at the end of the last season and then see a bunch of the games to start of this season as well to kind of get an idea. But to your point, we're not playing against Mexican teams week in and week out, so it's not our focus as a staff in the way that we break them down. What I would say is that we've seen enough matches. I think we have a pretty good understanding of who they are. But I also think when you look at a competition like this, it's not the same, right? For them, it's not going to be as if they were facing a Mexican opponent, and for us, it's not going to be the same as if we were playing an MLS game against another MLS team. It's international competition, and all of a sudden, it takes on a little different intensity. And so I think we're well aware of that. We played a lot of those games as a team, and the group that we have that experience. So that part is very good. It's not as if we're coming in with a brand new group of guys and trying to cut their teeth on this game. And then we have a lot of guys that have international experience in CONCACAF, which also helps. But like I said, when you look at Toluca, what they do have is that they are they're a tough mentality, tough team on the field to play against. I just think they're a strong team, and I don't mean just physically. And that can win you a lot of games. It can win you a lot of points, and it's something that we respect immensely, and hopefully we can be competitive with tomorrow night.
Now, I'll ask it for you. When you play in an international competition like this, is there a period at the start of the game? Are you feeling each other out, or do you feel like because you've seen enough of them that you already know? Can you just kind of put us in the mind of what it's like to play against teams you haven't seen before on the field and play against before the field?
We have an idea of what the game might look like. We have a goal of what we want the game to look like, but it doesn't always work out like that. So that's the responsibility that the players have, and that comes with an experienced group of making those assessments. First of all, formation, tactics, maybe a certain thing that they've tweaked here and there. But then, it's figuring out, do we need to make any changes? How is it affecting the game? Because you don't have the benefit of calling a timeout in soccer. So, you can go in at halftime and you have about 10 minutes to go over certain things, and really you can talk about 2 or 3 things is all. But the responsibility mostly falls on the players to recognize what's happening and to make decisions on the fly. I think that's also the interesting part about soccer. Yeah.
Peter, 2019 schedule looks really, really complicated for Spring Kansas City, playing MLS Cup, MLS, playing Champions, and also playing US Open Cup. How's the roster at this moment? Are you pretty much close, or basically you're looking for more players?
I don't know at any time since I've ever been here that the roster's ever been closed. The roster's never closed. It's a living, breathing document that's always changing. We're constantly looking for players, constantly evaluating players, evaluating our own players. We're constantly doing that. So it never ends. It's always there, and we'll consistently be looking for players because we always have to be ready. No matter what you think is your plan, somehow it always changes, and you always have to be ready for that. And so, yeah, we're always looking.
The question is about the switch of names on the tags on you and the scouting team. Is going to affect the scouting process, or is it going to continue?
No. I'm not a big guy into titles, but it was just a way of streamlining it a little bit better for how we do business domestically and also internationally, to make sure everybody understood sort of the who you were to go to for certain things. And then we've also grown. We continue to evolve on the technical side with different things that we do, and part of that also is our player identification department as well, and that's become more robust than it has in the future, or in the past, I mean. And so it's something that we need to make sure that we have streamlined from a pecking order, and who's doing what and who they report to, and then who people contact for certain aspects regarding soccer business in the organization.
On the preseason, we saw an increase on the finishing and the scoring. Is something changed, or was just?
We just decided that we were going to score more goals this year, so that we just started scoring.
Any difference in the strategies? Or
No. I think some of it's consistency with players, right? When you go into the next season with a lot of the same players, there's a familiarity with them, and you don't have to spend all the preseason trying to get them to understand each other. So I think part of it is that. The other part too is that, let's be honest, the first 2-3 games, all due respect, we played weaker opponents. We just didn't have higher quality opponents at the time to play because we started so early, and we were playing at a much higher number of minutes than the opposing teams. And so a lot of teams didn't want to play us, MLS teams didn't want to play us early because they just didn't want to play that type of intensity early on. So it was difficult. I wish it was that easy to just say, yeah, we're just going to go out and score more goals. But I think some of it is familiarity, though. We got a good group that understands our model of play, and we're maybe just a little bit faster to it this year, just because of just because we don't have so much change in the team.
My last question, promise. So many years working with Icopan on your side, it was hard for you to adapt to a new companion on the center backs process?
I wouldn't say hard, because it happens all the time. It's not just, you're not just playing with one guy the entire year. You train 5 days a week, and then you play one game each week. And in the 5 days of training, you're rotating throughout the entire roster. So at any given time, you're playing with 3 or 4 guys throughout the season. And I think every player that you play with has strengths and weaknesses, myself included. And so I think the biggest thing that you can do when you're playing with someone new is just try and figure out what that player likes to do, what that player does well, what that player needs help with, and try and do that as quickly as possible. And it works both ways too. I mean, whoever I play with, hopefully they take the same mentality of, okay, Matt likes to put himself in these positions. He excels in this area, but in this area, he needs a little help, and this is where I need to be ready. So, that's what we've been working on. There's been a lot of interchanging throughout preseason with repetitions, and so whoever plays back there as a partnership, I think will feel very comfortable from day one.
Any final questions? Peter, even though Sporting is not the only MLS team, do you feel that Sporting is carrying the MLS banner in this tournament?
No, I mean, it sounds good, but again, this competition belongs to the Mexican teams, right? They've won it. We haven't, and so the 4 teams that are in the competition at the moment, everyone's trying to break the glass ceiling here. So I think when we're in the competition, unless you're playing against each other at some point, you're rooting for the other team to do well because you want to see a Major League Soccer team actually win this competition. So, yeah, I wish I could say that was the case, but, yeah, no.